Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct honor to introduce the senior senator from Minnesota, Senator Amy Klobuchar.
Are you guys ready to endorse Al? Well, I am honored that he asked me to say a few words about him today. As the senior senator in our duo, he gave me the microphone. Now, you guys have to understand this is a true act of faith, and it wouldn't be happening in every state. Because in some states, the senators don't get along as well as we do. You know, he really took a bit of a risk, because, like, what if I came up here and made jokes about the recount? You know, like, what if I said that when I drove up to Duluth that there were more people in Toby's than his margin of victory last time? Like, that would just be a disaster. Or, you know, today's Al's Day, and I wouldn't dream of doing that. I mean, I could, you know, start a chant, for instance, in tribute to the fact that it took him 6 months to get into the office. You know, something like 5.5 more years. But I just wouldn't want to overshadow him, especially with his past career. You know, I wouldn't get up here and say that last year, the President of the United States, after my gridiron performance, officially declared Al the second funniest senator from Minnesota. That would just be super tacky. And it just would not be appropriate at all for Al Franken's introduction. So let me give this to you straight. I like working with Al. He cares about our state, and he works really hard. And I like hanging out with Franny. I like her apple pie. I like the fact that Al and Franny met at a college mixer, and then he had the audacity to buy her a ginger ale, and then they got married, and they've stayed that way for 37 years. And as Al likes to point out, most of them were happy. I love that Al will show me a picture of his grandson during an endless judiciary hearing, just in case I haven't seen the last one. And I love that Al starts to cry every time he talks about Paul Wellstone. Now, most of all, I like the work that Al has done in the United States Senate. I think about one of the first bills that Al got passed, a bill that gives rape victims, who also happen to be employees of defense contractors, the right to have their day in court. I think that most people would say, hey, why wouldn't they have that right anyway? But at the time, Al's amendment, this was one of the first things he did when he got to the Senate, his amendment was opposed by the Department of Defense, the powerful defense industry lobby, and 30 Republican senators. But my fellow Democrats, do you think that Al Franken backed down? No. Did he back down for the Defense Department? No. Did he back down for the defense industry lobby? No. Did he back down for 30 Republican senators? No. Of course not. He passed that bill. For Al, that fight was about standing up for justice, holding the powerful accountable, and giving a voice to the voiceless. Those principles have guided his work from day one in the Senate, and I will tell you this, Al has never stopped fighting for the people of Minnesota. It doesn't matter if his work helps 50 people or 50,000. He listens, he acts, and he gets things done. I know that Al is as fed up as I am with the Congress that bounces from budget crisis to budget crisis, with the willingness of some politicians to score political points by sacrificing the safety and security of the people that they're supposed to serve, by those who would rather spew sound bites and read green eggs and ham to an empty chamber than roll up their sleeves and get down to the hard work of governing. But even in Washington's deep freeze, Al gets things done. This long, cold winter, when one day Minnesota's temperature actually measured colder than Mars, okay, it was International Falls, and when cuts to low-income heating assistance programs threatened to leave thousands out in the cold, Al called on the White House to release emergency funds to keep the heat on in Minnesota, and the White House released those funds. When Al learned that some Vietnam veterans in our state who'd been exposed to Agent Orange weren't getting the benefits they needed, he took action and they got their benefits, and we all know there's more work to do. And when Al found out that Wall Street firms were cooking the books, he took on Wall Street by telling them, hey, you can't buy your way to a AAA credit rating. You need to earn it, and he put it in law. And standing up for women, Al and I work in Washington with a group of guys who constantly talk about going back to the values of the 80s. And by that, I finally figured out they actually mean the 1880s. But Al stands up for women's rights. He stands up for the right to choose and the right to birth control and the right to be safe from domestic violence. And thanks to the last Violence Against Women Act that was so near and dear to Paul's heart, and that Al and I went on and carried the torch, that includes our Native American women right here in Minnesota. And healthcare, as President Clinton has noted across the country, one of the most important parts in the healthcare reform legislation is the provision that holds insurance companies accountable and reins in their profits. And do you know who drafted that and put that into law? Al Franken did it, and he got it done. And you know what's absolutely amazing? He got all this stuff done, and he started 6 months after everyone else. Now, I left the best for last. Through all the gridlock and shutdowns and obstructionism, Al has managed tenaciously and effectively to carry on the Wellstone legacy. As Paul once said, I don't think politics has anything to do with left, right, or center. It has to do with trying to do right by the people. Al Franken has done right by the people. He's fought for workers. He's fought to ensure Minnesota's families can heat their homes. He's fought for the environment. He's fought to secure the rights of our LGBT community. He's fought to put quality education from pre-K to college within the reach of every Minnesota child. Al Franken has served Minnesota's families faithfully and well in his first term in the Senate. And that, my fellow Democrats, is why I like Al. That's why he's going to win. And that's why you are going to stand up for him. You're going to wave your signs, and you're going to stamp your feet and make a whole lot of noise as I ask you to endorse my friend, a true champion for Minnesota, Al Franken, for the United States Senate.